Hey guys, welcome back to the Boston Chris Show. And if you're new, I would love to earn your subscription or follow with this brand new episode of the Boston Chris Show featuring Buddy Jewell. Let me tell you a little bit more about Buddy. Now, America chose Buddy Jewell as the very first winner of the USA Network's hit reality show, Nashville Star. Buddy was the true viewer favorite from the very beginning, capturing 65% of the nationwide voting and beating out 11 other contestants, most notably Miranda Lambert, by over 2 million votes on the final episode. He and America have been involved in a love affair ever since. His self-titled Columbia Records debut release landed at number 1 on the Billboard Top Country Album charts, was certified gold later that same year, and garnered 2 back-to-back top 5 hits with Sweet Southern Comfort and Help Pour Out the Rain. Both tunes are RIAA certified 1 million radio airplays. Buddy has been recognized by the Grammys, ACM, CMA, ABC Radio Networks, ICMA, ICGMA, and CMT with multiple awards and nominations. In 2011, he won the International Country Gospel Music Association's Entertainer of the Year and Crossover Artist of the Year awards. In 2015, he was inducted into the Arkansas Entertainers Hall of Fame. In 2018, his number 1 Christian country hit, I'm There, won the Inspirational Country Music Association Song of the Year, and in April 2019, Buddy won the ICMA Male Vocalist of the Year. His talents as a songwriter have garnered him an ICMA number 1 for When Mama Prayed. Buddy's touching ode to his father, When I'm Good and Gone, received Grammy consideration for Ricky Skaggs and Sharon White. And in May 2019, Buddy's song One in a Row, which was co-written with Tom McHugh, was released by Randy Travis as his first new song in over 6 years. His newest album release in 2020, Blue Bonnet Highway, has received much critical acclaim from the likes of Robert K. Oerman, Marty Rabin of Shenandoah, and Patty Loveless. Most notably, the first single, Teardrop in the Gulf of Mexico, debuted at number 19 on the Bluegrass Today Top 20 Singles chart, while the album, Blue Bonnet Highway, reached number 20 on RMR's Americana chart. Buddy Jewell gives back to his community and beyond, serving as past spokesperson for the Minnie Pearl Cancer Foundation and Compassion International. He ministers to inmates at nearby facilities on a regular basis as well. Buddy especially has a heart for children and actively supports several worthy causes, including St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. He has served our nation throughout his career, supporting and entertaining our troops at home and abroad, highlighted by an extensive USO tour to remote forward operating bases on the front lines in Iraq, Kuwait, and Afghanistan with Sergeant Major Kenneth O. Preston. Buddy Jewell is a proud American patriot, a devoted father and husband, and an outspoken follower of Jesus Christ, and he is our guest this week on the Boston Chris podcast. So guys, if you like this episode, please hit that like button. If you want to see more like this in the future, you can of course hit the subscribe or follow button and comment down below your very favorite part of this episode. And without any further ado, guys, let's get into it with Buddy Jewell for the very first time here on the Boston Chris Show.
It's time to jam. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. It's time to jam. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. Until we all lose connection.
Hey, this is Mark Narmore, and you are tuned in to the Boston Chris podcast.
Guys, it's Buddy Jewell week here on the Boston Chris podcast, and man, we are so stoked to have Buddy here. We interrupted his lawn mowing, landscaping career that he has going on out there. Yeah, I threw you under the bus, Buddy. You know I was gonna.
No, that's hey man, I deserve it. I'm so sorry.
Man, we're so stoked to have Buddy here, and if you know anything about me, Buddy, we like to tell the stories behind the songs and behind the songwriters who create them. And man, you're just known for obviously a huge song, "Help Pour Out the Rain," and I wanted to chat a little bit about that song just to get us started, and then we'll kind of figure out where you came from and what makes you tick and all of that, if your game. And
Sure.
man, "Help Pour Out the Rain" was obviously such a monumental song for you. Tell us how you came to write the song, Buddy.
It was basically it's a true story about a conversation I had with my daughter Lacey when she was 3 years old. We were on our way. There's a lady who did in-home daycare. My wife and I both were self-employed, so we were blessed to be able to work from home. I was a studio singer, did demo work for every major publisher and writer in town back then. And I was taking Lacey out to Miss Kay's house to drop her off, and we got into this conversation about Jesus and heaven. And so this little 3-year-old in the back seat tells me, "Daddy, I don't think I want to go to heaven." And I thought about it for a little bit, and I said, "Well, I think you should think about that some more, because I hear the other place doesn't have air conditioning." And she got really quiet, and just a little bit later, she said, "Well, Daddy, if I go to heaven, will God let me help pour out the rain?" And at that moment, it just struck me as something really sweet, out of the mouths of babes type thing. And I just kind of nonchalantly filed that away, I guess. And several months later, it was the middle of the night, it was 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep. We used to always, with all our kids, we always said the children's prayer, "Now lay me down to sleep," so on. And I got to thinking about praying with Lacey that night, and I remembered that line, that situation, and I started getting this melody in my head, and praise God, I got up and wrote it down. I tell people all the time, I'm not smart enough to think this stuff up. I'm just smart enough to write it down as God's telling me what to write.
Yeah, what a beautiful melody too, man.
Do what, bro?
I said, what a beautiful melody too.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm sure I stole it from somebody.
So I got to tell you, man, this is what those in the business call a 100%er, which is very elusive. You wrote the entire song is what that means. No co-writers. And I have a problem with this because I think Lacey should have gotten some credit on this song. And I don't know, Buddy. I don't think it was a 100%er.
Well, definitely not. She'll be 32 in November. I still owe her a Disney cruise out of it.
You owe her something, right? There should be 2 different Jewels on this co-writing team.
Yeah, you're right about that, man.
So yeah, I remember hearing the story originally, obviously when you were on Nashville Star years ago. I think that's obviously the first time everybody heard the song, and I was like, dude, this is not a 100%er. No, absolutely not. Like, so yeah, Lacey, I got your back. Get her on the song, Buddy. Come on. So
here's one I hope you recognize. La da 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 dee 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 dee. The moment was custom made to order. I was riding with my daughter on our way back from Monroe, and like children do, she started playing 20 questions, but I never would have guessed one could touch me to my soul. She said, "Daddy, when we get to heaven, can I taste the Milky Way? Are we going there to visit, or are we going there to stay? Am I going to see my grandpa? Can I have a pair of wings? And do you think that God could use another angel to help pour out the rain?" La da 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 dee 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 dee. Well, I won't lie, I pulled that car right over, and I sat there on the shoulder trying to dry my misty eyes. And I whispered, Lord, I want to thank you for my children, 'cause your innocence that fills them often takes me by surprise. Like Daddy, when we get to heaven, can I taste the Milky Way? Are we going there to visit, or are we going there to stay? Am I gonna see my grandpa? Can I have a pair of wings? And do you think that God could use another angel to help pour out the rain? Mr. Troy Engel on the fiddle, y'all. Well, I thought about it later on, and a smile came to my face. And when I tucked her into bed, I got down on my knees and prayed. Lord, when I get to heaven, can I taste the Milky Way? I don't want to come to visit, 'cause I'm coming home to stay. And I can't wait to see my family and meet Jesus face to face. And do you think, Lord, you could use another angel to help pour out the rain? Can I help pour out the rain? Can I help pour out the rain? La da 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 dee 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 dee.
So, man, you're an Arkansas boy, right?
Yeah, born and raised in Northeast Arkansas, and a proud Arkansan. For
Yeah,
sure.
from Osceola, right?
Yeah, I moved there in the 4th grade, graduated high school there, so I called that my hometown.
So, what's it like for you growing up in that part of the world?
Well, it was Mayberry-esque, I guess is one of the best ways to put it. At that time, Osceola was probably the height of its population. I think we had 8,800 people at one time. It's primarily agricultural. There was a little bit of industry there. They had a shoe factory, a big American Greetings company. The greeting card company had a huge plant there that probably half the town worked for. And but it was, a really quiet little town. It was back in this, I was a child of the 70s or whatever, and so back then you could get out and run around town. Your mom and dad didn't worry about you, and you'd just be home by dark. And it was a really we lived in a bubble. Seriously, I mean, it was everybody knew you, you knew everybody, and most of the time you tried to stay out of trouble because of that.
I think it's so funny, buddy. I grew up in the same era. My parents used to always tell me, if you're still out of this house when the street lights are on, then you might want to stay the night out, because you got something coming to you. But I think it's so funny now as we get older, buddy, that like Hollywood and all these theaters and TV and film, they're trying to recreate that feeling of what we grew up in, that bubble you talked about. It's a good way of putting it. I feel like Hollywood's really trying to recreate that nowadays in so many different shows and movies, right?
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. I haven't paid much attention to Hollywood in a while. I can't tell you the last time I was in a movie theater. Every once in a while, somebody will recommend something. I'll catch it on Netflix or Hulu or whatever.
Yeah, I watch more TV than movies myself. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, my wife and I were talking about it the other day. We really don't watch a whole lot of television. I mean, my life is so busy, praise God, that I don't have time to sit in front of a screen for hours on end. It's nice when I can,
Right, sure.
but it just doesn't happen a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that all too well. So, like growing up in Osceola in northern Arkansas, I love the story that you your entire music career, the songwriting, the artistry, everything started when you bought a guitar from a childhood friend. So I need you to first of all, this is on Wikipedia, so everybody knows that Wikipedia is 100% true. So number one, is that true, buddy, that you bought a guitar from a childhood friend?
I did. Chucky McBride sold me a guitar for $10. I was probably 13, 14 years old. The neck was warped on it. I didn't know that, and it was warped, and I didn't really care. I didn't know that guitar necks were supposed to be like that. But eventually, I wound up. Someone gave me an old Sears Silvertone electric. I wish I still had it. It's probably worth a lot of money. And then I wound up. I actually, interesting story. The first brand new guitar I got was at a store in Memphis called Strings and Things, and a guy named Jimmy Jameson sold me that, who wound up being the lead singer for Survivor, Eye of the Tiger, and all that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So prior to that, being 13 or 14 years old, what got you interested in music enough to try to make a deal for $10 with a broken neck guitar?
Stairway to Heaven.
Really?
I heard the song Stairway to Heaven. I've been singing in little choirs and stuff since I was, in kindergarten. So I already loved singing. But when I heard that acoustic guitar and Jimmy Page playing that, I just fell in love. I thought, man, what a beautiful piece of music. And little did I know how hard it would be to learn to play it. But that's why I started playing guitar. My ambition was to be able to play Stairway to Heaven.
I love that.
I can.
And again, on Wikipedia, it says that you were bagging groceries to pay for guitar lessons. And man, it's just such a visual lesson, right? That I imagine you learned from your folks somewhere along the line. Where if you want something, go get it, right? Talk about kind of learning those things.
Well, my mom and dad. From as far as I can remember back, my dad always worked 2 jobs, and he had 3 kids. My mom always worked. We were latchkey kids, I guess what they call us. And you had to be responsible for your own self. You came home and there was no question you were going to get your homework done. You were going to do your best to make straight A's, and you didn't skip school. You showed up and you did your chores. You did what you were told to do, and if you did that, then you were rewarded with peace. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't, then there was not any peace, for a while. But as far as working hard, man, I started mowing yards, when I was 10 years old, and to make money. And then the working bagging groceries, I didn't take guitar lessons. Wikipedia's wrong there, but I bought song books that had chords in them.
All right.
And the first one I bought was a complete Led Zeppelin. And looking at that, I remember looking at that thing going, oh my gosh, I'll never learn how to play this. And then a second cousin of mine, Johnny Barnes, came over the house one day, and I was trying to play Stairway to Heaven. He said, let me show you how to play that. And he knew how to play it. So I lucked out on that end. But it was always hard work, man. We didn't get an allowance. I never got an allowance.
I don't know what an allowance was. All I know is, as much like you, I started mowing lawns really young and started selling newspapers at 13. By the time I was 15, I was making more than my parents. So
yeah,
we learned the same lessons. And my parents always taught me if I wanted something, I needed to get it for myself. Like they're not going to work hard for it, right? Like if I wanted a jacket or a pair of shoes or something, they were willing to buy me the base, necessities that I needed. But like if I wanted upgrades, I had to pursue those myself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and obviously you and I are cut from the same cloth, so we're going to agree on most stuff.
Yeah.
But absolutely, man, I am. And I've tried to raise my kids the same way. Growing up, our deal with them is like with cars, for instance. My wife and I said, you're going to save money. I'll match the money that you save. If you save $200, you get a $400 bicycle. Yeah. If you save $2,000, you get a $4,000 car. And I remember after we met George and Nancy Jones, and my wife and Nancy got to be really good friends, and thus I got to know George and be a friend of his. And when our oldest little buddy, we were getting ready to buy him a car, I had to keep telling Nancy and George they could not buy him a car. They wanted to buy him a car.
Yeah.
And he still hasn't forgiven me for
I imagine
that.
not. I imagine not. I imagine. Yeah, that's man, just let the man buy me a car, Dad. Come on.
Yeah.
So, do you remember your first paying gig?
Yes. Well, I take that back. I'm sure I got paid, like $10 or whatever to play at somebody's wedding or something like that. But the first bar gig was $30 and all the beer I could drink at the Circle J Tavern in North Little Rock, Arkansas.
And so, how much beer did you drink? That's the question there, right? Like, did you get your money's worth?
I drank more than $30 worth of beer. That's for sure.
And I mean, we're talking a ways back, so they were probably like 50 cents a beer at that point.
Yeah, I got my money's worth. That's for sure.
Imagine. So, kind of take us through your evolution as an artist early on. I imagine for most people, it's you learn how to play an instrument. Sometimes it's vocally based first, but usually it's instrumental, and then you add your vocals to it. You become a cover artist in some way. You start gigging out locally. Did you kind of follow the traditional route that I just kind of laid out?
Yeah, pretty much. I was already singing and stuff, and I started playing guitar. Like I said, when I was 14. I was really shy, actually. I remember the guy who was the music director at our church. I was probably 16, and he taught me into doing a duet with one of the other girls in the choir, and that's really the first time I ever sang in public. It was in church, and then I still was really shy. And when people would say, man, that you're really good, or you sounded great, or whatever, I always thought they were just being nice.
Yeah.
Because your mom and your girlfriend think you're great, and but it wasn't until I got to college and I participated in a talent contest, and I came in second at Arkansas State there, and I thought, wow, because there's some really good performers, and I thought, man, this might be something I want to pursue. So that's kind of where I got the bug, I guess.
I love that. And so what's that like internally for you? You finished second in that. Now you kind of see this validation of what people have been telling you all along that you don't believe because it's just a small sample size, essentially. So what's that like internally now? Like, hey, you're actually good at this. Let's try to figure out what we can do next.
Well, the validation was incredible for me. I was born with really poor eyesight. I wore those thick Coke bottle black glasses, from up until I was a sophomore in high school, and I was ridiculed, 4 eyes,
Yeah.
Coke bottles, whatever. And so I had a inferiority complex, I guess is maybe the best way to put it. So for me to be affirmed like that and told that not only that I was good enough to come in second, but the girls in college started noticing me a little more, and so that was even more incentive to keep doing what I was doing.
Yeah, I love that too, right? I mean, just having that talent kind of puts blinders on for folks, right? They don't notice the appearance anymore, and they're not quite as mean. Because, hey, man, this guy's good at something, and he's getting the notice of the opposite sex. I might want to be friends with him now, right?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I just got back from a cruise, literally a few days ago, and one of my oldest and dearest friend is a girl. Her name was Lori Pollock in school, and we met in the 4th grade when I moved to Osceola, and have been friends ever since. And she and her husband were on the cruise, and some of her family members.
Wow.
And I sold my motorcycle when I was in the 10th grade to buy contact lenses. And I didn't know this until literally on the cruise. Her brother or her sister told me, she said, I remember Laurie coming home one day and saying that a bunch of the girls had said, Buddy Jewell, I got contacts and he's kind of cute. So no idea. 40 something years goes by, I finally get that. Anyway, pretty funny.
That's what's up, man. So when's the inspiration to write start to hit you? Because that's kind of a natural progression as well. Once you kind of you're playing other people's music, you either really fall into that and enjoy that, and you're a cover artist your whole life, or that inspiration comes. Do you remember what kind of catapulted you towards original material?
Really, when I was probably, 15, 16 years old, I wrote my first song. It was a really bad song,
Sure.
where you rhyme blood and mud and thud and goofy stuff like that. It was for a girl that I was in love with, who was a year or two younger than me, that I was dating. And it was really an awful song. But I don't really, there's not a moment where I could pinpoint where it just was kind of a natural thing to me. I would, just noodle around on the guitar, and melodies would come to me. And so most of my songwriting at that point early on started with a melody. And then weirdly, the lyrics would come afterward. In fact, to this day, I can't take someone's poem that they've written and put music to it. It has to be married together and really more melodically driven than anything else.
Interesting. So it's almost like the words have melodies in themselves, and that kind of, I mean, I feel like words have tone to them anyway, right? I mean,
yeah,
man, a lot of people may not know this. Arkansas has a really rich history of music. I mean, huge, rich traditional background in music from Johnny Cash and so many other people from Arkansas. So, like, how are you drawing influences from kind of your local base in Arkansas?
Well, where I grew up was only 20 miles from where my parents grew up, and they grew up with Johnny Cash.
Wow.
Okay. Johnny was a little older than them. Tommy, my dad and Tommy played basketball together in high school. Johnny and my dad's oldest brother, Uncle Hubert, were actually really good friends. And so, and then even my mom, they had a piano at my mom's house, and I can't remember which one of Johnny's sisters used to come over there to play the piano. I think it was it a Reba or Ruby? I think anyway, she used to come over to play the piano. And where they lived was a little bitty town. I think it originally had 500 people or something like that lived there. So naturally, I was Johnny Cash, influenced by Cash really early on. My dad was probably the biggest musical influence on me, and he loved guys like, Johnny Cash, Johnny Horton, Marty Robbins. He loved Don Williams, guys with rich baritone voices. And so I listened to a lot of that stuff when I was a kid. My mom and dad had this is the 60s. So they had one of those old RCA record players that like a suitcase that you could carry around. And I'd open that thing up, and they had, LPs, 33 1/3. For those of you who are young, it looks like a pizza, and it's kind of like a CD. But I would stack those things on there 4 or 5 at a time, until they would fall to, I'd stack it until one would fall down. I'd realize, okay, I've got too many on here, and just listen to those hour after hour after hour. And Dad had all these great records, Gene Pitney, Marty Robbins, Johnny Horton, Cash. And so I listened to that stuff for hours. So when I started playing guitar, even though it was I was influenced a lot by John Denver, Dan Fogelberg, Jim Croce, guys like that. I found that my voice was more suited to the country stuff. And Kenny Rogers, just the storytelling songs that he did, was another big influence on me and hooked me. But when I was in college, I heard Alabama. I heard the song, goodness gracious, Old Flame, Alabama. I was in a bar. Yeah, I was 18 years old. Wasn't supposed to be in there. A little concrete block bar with a jukebox and a pool table, and Old Flame came on the jukebox, and I heard those harmonies, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And so it was probably then that I really kind of put two and two together and started focusing on trying to be a country artists.
I find that very interesting because Arkansas is obviously very grounded in traditional country music, but it's also geographically closer to the blues scene of Memphis and kind of that. So are you influenced by that as well, kind of the Memphis scene?
You know, I was. I mean, I listened. Of course, growing up, I was a rock and roll fan. I loved Skinner and AC/DC. I went to a lot of rock concerts. In fact, the first 3 concerts I went to were all Kiss concerts.
Wow.
I lived about an hour away from Memphis, and so spent a lot of time over there. Being very honest, I respected blues and guys like Albert King, and I think there was a blues artist from Osceola named Albert Collins.
Yeah.
That was a pretty famous guy from around there. Of course, B.B. King. I knew about him. It never was something that really, registered with me, I guess is the best way to put it. Elvis, I didn't like Elvis when I was young. The older I got, especially when I started writing and playing music, I saw the kind of influence he had on music in general, and really grew to respect him for that, and then became someone who actually enjoyed listening to Elvis Presley music. So
Yeah.
it was a journey for me, for sure.
So Nashville was definitely probably your path, the natural way for you to go as an artist. What was the decision to kind of head that way?
I met my wife, Tanae, July 31st, 1987, at a club in Irving, Texas. I was working with a band out of Southwest Arkansas, a little town, Camden, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And the band was named White Oak. A guy in Little Rock who had heard me playing in a steak and ale, owned a couple of clubs, started booking me to play his club there in Little Rock. And then White Oak was looking for a new lead singer, and this guy contacted me about moving from Little Rock down to Southwest Arkansas. I was single, and so I wound up heading down that way. I met my wife in Irving in 87. Our son Buddy was born in late 89, and the band broke up. So I was living in Dallas at the time. And then what really kind of brought me to Nashville was I got involved. Alabama used to sponsor a nationwide talent search called Alabama June Jam Talent Search. And I won the Dallas
Chapter.
contest.
Yeah, the chapter of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and from that, I wound up going to Fort Payne. They for June Jam. And we competed the night before June Jam, came in second in the national contest. And the people that ran the contest were folks that lived in Nashville, worked in radio, and they taught me into moving to Nashville.
Nice.
And so I got here in January '93, and they still haven't run me off.
It's crazy how much we have in common. Just backing up a little bit, your dad had the same kind of listens that my dad did, right? The Martys and the Hanks and the Don Williams and stuff like that. You married a Texas girl, so did I.
Did you really?
Yeah. So I'm actually in Texas now. I grew up in Massachusetts. You grew up in Arkansas. It's like we lived the same existence. It's crazy. It's really cool.
Now, where's your wife from in Texas?
So she's originally from the Houston area, but she's been in Golden for the last, since she was a teenager, which is just north of Tyler.
Okay.
Maybe an hour and a half west of Dallas. And that's where we're at now. We inherited her folks' place here. And
I got you. Well, my wife was born in Corpus, but her dad worked for Sun Oil Company.
Yeah.
And they shipped them to Boston for him to go to MIT to get his master's in chemical engineering.
That's cool.
And so they lived up there. They moved from there to a little place outside of Philly called Paoli, Pennsylvania. And she went to junior college up there. And after she graduated junior college, her dad had been transferred back down to Texas to the Dallas area. And so she moved down there.
Yeah.
And that's how I wound up meeting her.
That's what's up.
So
yeah, my wife's father played pedal steel for 70 years of his life.
Oh my gosh.
He played with Bob Wills and Leona Williams and
wow.
Boxcar Willie, Gene Watson. Like, he's played for tons of people. So yeah, it was cool. Anyway, man, we got off track a little bit. It's so cool, kind of the things we have in
Sorry.
common. Dude, one of the things I wanted to chat with you about, once you're in Nashville, you kind of end up being kind of a really prolific demo singer, and you alluded to it earlier. I feel like this is obviously a very needed part of the business, but do you think that kind of held you back from being discovered for a major label deal or publishing or anything like that? Just because I've heard the phrase "just a demo singer" so much in Nashville.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, buddy?
Well, that's a great question. Normally I felt like it didn't hurt me any. Although I was in that business, I did that work for a better part of 9 years. before
Over
Nashville Star came
5,000
along.
demos you sung on. That's crazy. dude.
Yeah, I quit counting at 4,000.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I would have writers call me and say, "Man, I took that stuff you did for me last week and pitched it to so and so at the big record label, their A&R person." And said they stopped at that time in the 90s. It was 4 CDs. It was cassette tapes.
Mhm.
And they stopped the tape in the middle of the song, and they'd say, "That's Buddy Jewell singing, isn't it?" "Yeah." "Man, he's a great singer." But they never would say, "Maybe I should give him a record deal."
Right.
And I was, I don't know. I mean, I was told by friends who had been told by people, executives, whatever, "Well, he doesn't look like a star." I look at some of the stars from that time, and that to me it's kind of laughable. I'm not
Yeah.
doing it in front of
What's
you,
the
but,
problem?
what do you got to do to look like a star? But anyway, it was depressing sometimes. I would hear stuff on the radio that I thought was subpar, not only vocally but the writing itself, and not necessarily thinking my stuff was better. I was just thinking, man, I've sang demos that are a lot better than that as far as the recording and the song itself, and that stuff nobody's picking up and putting it on the radio. And conversely, several of those demos that I sang became big hits for people like George Strait,
Yeah.
Leanne Womack, and folks like that. So it was I never felt like it hindered me. It's just I never could get somebody to for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, I always feel like I'm a wrestling fan, for example, and there's always the guys that enhance other people, right? Like you need those people in the wrestling business. And whenever you ask a legend, like, what do you think of this guy who's just enhancement talent? They'd say, "Oh, he's a good hand." I feel like that's kind of what can happen to you in the music business when you're a demo singer, or a harmony singer, or a background singer, or a session player, all of these things that are heavily, heavily needed in the business, but not necessarily helping you reach stardom in a way, right?
Yeah, that's true. I know one piece of advice I was given early on, because I did demos for people like Aaron Tippin and his wife Thea, and I sang demos for Larry Stewart from Restless Heart, Lori White, Chuck Cannon, her husband. But I had several people tell me, I was friends with Michael Peterson early on before he got his deal, and they all said, "Don't go down to Broadway and sing. Don't be a Broadway singer, because then you're just a bar singer
Yeah.
to the people on Music Row." And so I avoided that. I also found out the farther I worked from Nashville doing solo stuff, the more money they paid.
Of course,
So I was happy to stay away from Broadway.
Yeah. I love that, man. I think you're the most prolific demo singer that we've ever had on the show. So I wanted to hear your input on that, because who can give better insight than you? And of course, I mean, we've had dozens, hundreds of published songwriters on the show that obviously the demo is so important to those published songwriters and getting the song out there to A&R and song pluggers and all of that. During that course of the first chapter of your life in Nashville, you started releasing records independently. I think you had 2. Correct me if I'm wrong. What does this season of your life look like for you as an artist and a songwriter?
During that period when I was releasing those,
Yes.
as well, I had, of course, obviously, the stuff I released, I had written or co-written, and I would go out and play, my little bar gig or Mexican restaurant gig or whatever, and people would say, "Man, I really like that song. If you got it on, if you got it recorded anywhere." And so it kind of grew out of that, where I would have actually some product to sell
I got you.
at my little solo shows. And then when I found out that I was going to be on Nashville Star, I'd already released the first CD or project album, what you want to call it. It was called One in a Row. And so I had enough stuff to do the second record far enough away. And it kind of coincided about the same time that I was doing Nashville Star. I think I may have finished that record before the show, but I hurried up and I got a website up. And my wife, who's incredibly, she's full of wisdom. I remember her coming to me and saying, "You need to," this was back before the big .com stuff. She said, "You need to get that domain name, buddygewell.com. And you need to get a website up and going." And so fortunately we did that right before the show, literally before I found out I was going to be on the show.
Brilliant. Yes, brilliant.
Yeah. And we were able to, it's funny because when I got on the show, I was the oldest person there. You had, pretty girls and good looking guys. And I'd seen a bunch of them get record deals in Nashville in front of me. And I was pretty sure I wasn't going to win this show. But I thought, man, if I can just sell enough T-shirts and CDs, to pay, literally, we had a credit card bill. I thought maybe I'll sell enough to pay off the credit card. And I did. We did. The first night I sang Help Cry Out the Rain, we made more money than we owed. And we were able to pay off the credit card in one night. But it was, those are the first two. And then I did 2 for Sony, and then started doing my own again after they let me go in 2005.
Yeah, talk a little bit about kind of ending up on Nashville Star. I know you had a history of talent shows with the Alabama thing, and then you also appeared on Star Search a few times, had some real good success there as well. I feel like Star Search was really the only kind of national exposure to a talent contest that we had at that time, and Nashville Star was trying to kind of be maybe a country version of that. So how did that end up on your radar?
Well, a guy that I went to church with, Richard Johnson, had come out to see me play every now and then around Nashville, and I didn't even know about Nashville Star. And he, one Sunday after church, he stopped me and started telling me about this new television show that they were doing auditions for, and it was for country singer-songwriters.
Yeah.
And because of my experience with the Marlboro contest and You Can Be a Star turned me down. I didn't even get to audition for it. Star Search, all those other, I was kind of put out with the talent competitions by then.
Yeah.
But he kept bugging me every Sunday.
Early 40s.
You're going to do that show. You're going to do that show.
You were like 41 at this point, right, buddy?
I was 41 years old.
Okay, continue.
Sure
I just want folks to know that.
No. So and I got here, I was 31. So it's been here for 10 years.
Right.
And finally, just to shut him up, I said, okay, I'll go audition. And honestly, the day of the auditions, I remember I was downtown Music Row. I was picking up material because you would drive down. You didn't get songs emailed to you back then.
Yeah.
You literally had to either drive or they had to mail them to you. And I was down on Music Row picking up tapes at publishing companies to learn songs for the next day or the next few days or whatever. And I remember calling my wife and I said, honey, I don't think I'm going to do this Nashville Star thing. I said, I got a ton of stuff to record this week. I got to learn all these songs, and I just don't think I got time to do it. And hung up the phone. Several minutes later, she called me back, and she said, we left everything in Texas, because she had a really successful business as a nail specialist that did like the sculptured nails and stuff. And I had a really good business singing at the bars around Dallas, Fort Worth. But she said, we left everything there to come here to try and get you a record deal. And if we're not going to turn over every stone, we might as well pack up and just go back to Texas. And so I said, okay, I'll go to the audition. And that was the pivotal moment. So there again, my wife's wisdom is the reason one of the big reasons I'm sitting there talking to you today. And she was right, as it turns out.
So, a couple of questions about your experience with Nashville Star, and really in retrospect is what I want to chat about. And
Sure.
obviously, a lot of things were kind of born of that show. You got the American Idols and the AGTs and The Voice and all of these shows today, and it's obviously a tool for artists to get more known. And would you say that it was would you recommend folks take that lane, knowing that you did so and lived through it and all of that?
Absolutely. It may be your only opportunity to be heard, but back then, you didn't have the big, there was no such thing as, gosh, I can't even think, TikTok.
Yeah.
Facebook wasn't around. Instagram wasn't around. MySpace was really, really new. So there wasn't this ability to have social media get you to out in front of people like it is nowadays. But I'll go with my wife's answer: turn over every stone.
Yeah.
It can't hurt you. It's experience. It's like someone told me early on when I was singing demos. They said, every time you get a chance to get behind a microphone, take it. You're learning something. You're working on your craft, and I say the same thing to people trying to get a record deal, or to try to become an artist. Is never don't give up, and don't overlook opportunities, because you never know. Had I not done that show, there's a good chance I'd have never gotten a record deal. I was 41 years old. I was too old for Nashville, and on top of not looking like a star. So I will say this too. I'm a believer. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and I know in my heart that that the God that I worship and serve is big enough to where if he wanted me to have a record deal, he could create a television show to get me one.
That's right.
And so, so it was a God thing to me all the way. That's the only way I was going to get a record deal, and lo and behold, that's what happened.
It's crazy to think nowadays, 20 years later, 25 years later, that 41 is old in the music business, right? Not anymore, man. I love that that's not a thing anymore. Man.
Well, what surprised me, though, because Nashville is such a cookie cutter, I'm surprised they didn't sign a bunch of 41-year-old guys with a goatee and a slight beer belly.
Right? Yeah, just a slight beer belly. I love it. The second retrospective question I wanted to ask you, being such a fan of the song "Help Pour Out the Rain," do you think the song finds radio, or in the success that it ended up having because of Columbia and the show and all of that? Do you think that happens without the experience on Nashville Star?
No, not at all. I'd written that song, I think, about 1996. When Nashville Star rolled around, this was the end of 2002, 2003, when I started auditioning. And I had actually gotten lucky enough that actually Trace Atkins had Help Pour Out the Rain on hold, which for your viewers means that it's kind of a gentleman's agreement or ladies' agreement in Nashville, that if an artist has a song on hold, that no one else records that song. They have the first right to do that, and there's not any money exchange or anything like that. But you don't cut something somebody else has on hold. And I remember in the show, there was an opportunity for me to sing something I had written in the tryouts. And Trace, and the deal was, I was told, well, if the song's on hold or been recorded by someone, you can't use it. And so I wasn't going to get to sing "Help Pour Out the Rain" in the tryouts. And I mean, in a miracle, literally, I don't know, 4 or 5 days before it came time for me to do that round, Trace dropped the song and took it off hold. And so I was able to perform it in the Nashville finals. And that night's the night that I won the Nashville city competition. And then when I performed it on the show, of course, we were like Big Brother. Big Brother, we were all sequestered in this big house down on Music Row, all 12 of us, the contestants. And my wife called me after I sang "Help Her Out the Rain" on the show, and she said, "You're not going to believe this." She said, "Our website's going nuts." She said, "I will literally download 10,000 messages or whatever we were
Wow.
getting," and she said the site will crash, and then I reboot and bring it back up. I'll get another 10,000 messages, and it goes down again. And so I don't know how many thousands, tens of thousands of messages we got that night because of that song. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've written a hit song. I didn't even realize it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so if it hadn't been for the TV show, I have to, I guess I just have to say there's no way that song was going to make it out there except for that specific situation.
Yeah, because I mean, hate it or not, or love it or not, I mean, Nashville decides whose ears get to hear what. And
Yep.
man, when you're on live TV, guess what? Now people are getting to hear it when there's nobody stopping it from reaching those ears, and I think that was
Yep.
monumental, not only for you but for that song. It was such a needed song at the time. I think so many people really resonated with it that heard it. I think it won you the show. I think you would agree with that.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
did.
I mean, there was nothing else that came out of that show as good as that song. And it was so cool to see a competition where it was original material, right? It wasn't like cover music and stuff like that. You did talk a little bit about losing your record deal as well. You had 2 records with Columbia. And at this point in time, you would have been in Nashville 12, 13 years when the record deal fell through. So what's
Right.
what's the next step for you at that point? Because you talked about your wife saying turning over every stone. You have the record label, the major label deal. Now it's gone. So like, how do you pick yourself back up from that?
Well, I was devastated.
Yeah,
Um, I had spent all that time, had dreamed of having a major label deal, since I started singing in bars when I was 21 years old. And so fast forward 20 years that I had put in, and it was kind of I'm told by people who were in the know that it was a numbers situation. The first season Nashville Star, Sony New York had put up $750,000 to give to the show to help finance it, and in turn they were going to get to sign the winner and anybody else that was on the first season if they wanted to.
right.
Um, the guys that owned the TV show said, "Fine, but we're going to get half of everything you make on that winner." And so I was already in the hole when I started, because if you think about it, I had to sell twice as many records as somebody who didn't have that obligation,
Yeah,
and they were already close to $1 million in the hole because of the show. So after the first album, and it did great, I debuted at number 1. I think the first week it sold 51,000 copies, which was actually really good.
incredible.
I can
Yeah.
look at other artists who sold half of that, and who were big stars. But the bean counters, and rightly so. If I was the accountant or the money guy, I would have done the same thing. They said, "Hey, why spend $100,000 promoting this guy when we're only going to get half the money back when we can do somebody else and we get to keep all the money?" And that's what cost me my deal with Sony. Um, so after that, it was tough for me, man. But it came at a time. It was in November of 2005. I knew it was coming, because when I did my second album for them, they only when the first album they pressed almost 700,000 copies initially, and it actually wound up going, is probably, I don't know if it's $1 million sold now or not, but they only pressed about 200,000 copies of the second project. And when I found that out, I went to my manager and I said, "They're going to drop me." And he said, "Oh, no, they're not." I said, "Yeah, they are. They didn't put out enough records to fill up the stores for Walmart in general." And sure enough, a few weeks later, he calls me and says, "Man, I just went over with a meeting with him, and they're letting you go."
Yeah.
And so then I had to, I thought, well, hey, I've had that success with the first record. The second album, I had a top 25 off of it. Surely some other label wants to pick me up. And according to him, he had talked to all the other labels and nobody wanted me. And so I was, back on my own, producing my own stuff. I changed management. The one really foolish, which that's not such a big deal. The biggest dumb thing I did was I changed agents. I was with William Morris and I should have stayed with them. I never should have left William Morris. I would have still been, I went from doing like 150 shows a year to doing 30 with William Morris, but I'd still be making more money on those 30 shows. But I just, I would say ego got in the way some there. And it was hard for me to understand why some other label, even a bigger independent, wouldn't take me on.
Blows me away. You debuted at number one with your debut record, and now there's not even an independent label wants to sign you. Crazy. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, because first of all those labels, including Sony, had told me no at least twice.
Yeah. Prior to the show, right?
Prior.
Yeah.
So I think there was kind of a pride thing with them. That first of all, they weren't smart enough to sign me and me make them the money. And then they would have to admit that they were wrong if they signed me. Now that someone else has let me go. And that's just my generalization, my thought. Who knows? But yeah, so either way, that's not the way it worked out. I will say this, and I came to the realization and to be content about it several years ago. I'm right where God wants me to be.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, because ultimately your transition was into Christian music, which is obviously, you say, where God wanted you to be. That's obviously true based on what I read about you, your path. And you ended up with a number one Christian song.
Yeah, I had number one, I'm There, off of one of my projects, and then another song that I wrote with a friend of mine. Gosh, my brain's going from it. Tom, good Lord. Anyway, we wrote a song called When Mama Prayed that I produced on an artist that went to number one on Christian radio as well. So I had some success there. I was like the gospel country music entertainer of the year, crossover artist, all those good things that I'm sitting here looking up the trophies right now. So I was blessed, man. And I, God had bigger things for me to do, but on a smaller scale. I came to Nashville thinking I was going to be the next Garth Brooks, and that's just not what was intended for me.
No, you were supposed to be the first Buddy Jewell. That's what it was.
Do what?
You were supposed to be the first Buddy Jewell.
Yeah, good point. I like that.
Yeah.
I've been very open and honest about my life and about a lot of the mistakes that I made in the past. And I think some of that probably hurt me as well. But I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I think God would have liked for me to have bigger things go on, but I caused some stuff not to happen because of dumb decisions and things like that.
You mentioned ego. Ego will do that, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. But I'm so blessed. I tell you, I'm so blessed. God's been so good to me. Here we are. The show debuted March the 8th, so it's been 23 years since that show came on TV. May the 3rd will be the 23rd anniversary of me winning. And I'm still getting paid to travel all over the world, wear a cowboy hat and sing, and making a comfortable living, doing what I love doing. I've taken it to where, to me, it's more of a personal, almost a ministry, to where I may not be singing in front of tens of thousands of people every night, but God has He's given me the mission of loving people one person at a time. So when I'm at the front desk at the hotel, there's no telling what the person that's checking me in has gone through that day. That's or what they're going through in their life.
Golly, so right.
Yeah, and so just things like that I've taken on as a personal mission, and it helps me stay focused. And so, yeah, I'm not doing the Garth stuff, but I'm doing what God wants me to do. So I'm happy with it.
Well, one thing
As
I
long as I
also
can
wanted
pay
to
my
chat
bills.
about, Buddy, is how given you are of your time as well. Through some of your philanthropic endeavors, like being a spokesperson for the Mini Pearl Cancer Foundation and Compassion International, the fact that you've given so freely of your time ministering to inmates who are some of the most forgotten of our community, of our society, entertaining troops through the USO, being all over the world with that, and giving your time so freely in that. I'm a veteran, so I thank you for that. But
Oh,
just chat about why this is so important to you, not as an artist, but as a human, just giving back to people that need that comfort from other folks.
well, first of all, let me say that from the bottom of my heart, Chris, me and my family really appreciate your service,
Thank you.
and not only yours, but your family's sacrifice as well, because they serve with you, and so we really appreciate you. Man, I've always, the thing with inmates, there, but for the grace of God, go I.
Yeah.
I had issues with drugs and alcohol when I was younger. There are times I should have gone to jail, probably to prison, and God saw fit to keep me that from happening to me. I tell those guys all the time, hey, I should be in here with y'all, and it's just because of God's mercy and grace that I'm not. Um, so, I feel an obligation to try to give those guys hope and help them to understand that, they don't have to be the same person when they leave as they were when they walked in there, and they can start that very day, by having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And I tell them, say, hey, look, you tried it your way. Look where that got you. You might as
Exactly.
well, why not give God a chance? And so that's in that in particular. Um, it hits home for me because I should have been there. Our military, our police, our first responders, I've always had a huge admiration and respect for them. There were in my family, we had veterans that served, um, and so I've always had a really strong appreciation for that. And for me to be able to go and even in the dangerous situations that I've been in, um, I was only putting my life on the possibility of something happening to me
Sure.
on the line for a couple of weeks. You guys and gals were doing it for months at a time in some really tough situations and environments. And I figured the least I can do is give up 2 weeks of my cushy life to go and hopefully bring a little piece of home to the men and women that serve this country. And so I try to be deeply involved. I've done several bases, around the United States, all different branches, and man, I'd be happy to go again. No matter where they ask me to go, I'd be more than happy to go again and give my time. Um, I have a really deep love for children. Um, God blessed me with three beautiful kids that have all turned out to be pretty good, solid citizens. And now I've got grandchildren through them. The thing about Minnie Pearl and St. Jude, um, my cousin Michael Hale was born in 1964. He's a little younger than I was. He was born with a really, really rare blood disease. And in the early 1960s, that was just a death sentence.
Yeah.
The doctors told my aunt and uncle that he probably wouldn't live to be 2 years old. They went to Le Bonheur Hospital in Memphis, and then wound up going to St. Jude. And by the grace of God and the hard work of the doctors and nurses and the research scientists, the people that worked there at St. Jude, we got to keep him for 15 years.
Wow.
And so I'd always had it in
What a
my mind if
blessing,
I,
man. What a blessing.
yeah. So I just always had in my mind if I could give back any way, to causes like that, I wanted to. So it's just something I've felt compelled to do. I'm not, and I don't want anybody patting me on the back for it and saying "good boy." I just, they think that's what you should do, and I think every artist should devote themselves to some kind of opportunity to give back because we've been given so much. The people that buy my records and the concert tickets and the t-shirts, and all that, I owe them something. And artists that won't spend time with their fans, won't sign autographs for them or whatever, I I don't understand that. Um, but there again, I'm a people person. I love being around people. I don't hide from folks. I go to shows. I walk out in the audience before the show, and I'll meet half the crowd before I get on stage.
Man, buddy, isn't it something that used to be the shy boy and now that's who you are?
That, you know what, I don't know that I've ever thought about it, but yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a shy guy anymore.
Yeah, not anymore, right? Came out of your shell somewhere along the way, I imagine. So tell me, you got new music on the horizon, buddy?
I do, man. I'm really excited about it. I'm just in the beginning process. We're doing tracking right now, but there's a really, really special song that God gave me, and I've been writing a lot with a couple of new friends of mine that I've met here in the past few years. Charlie Allen, who was an artist on Atlantic about the time that I came out back in 2003, and then a guy named Johnny Garcia, who's been Trish Yearwood's music director for 31 years.
Wow.
He was with her from the start. He also works for Garth, monster guitar player and producer. And we've been writing, and the three of us have written this song called A Lot Like Me, that I think if it ever gets out there where the masses can hear it, I think God's going to use it in a really, really big way. Just judging from the reaction that I'm getting when I play it at my shows. I think it's a really special thing, and I'm really excited to see what happens with it.
Well, I hope when these songs come out that you'll consider coming back on and chatting about them. We'd love to have you on and help it reach the masses for sure.
Well, if you let me finish mowing my yard first, I'll do it.
I don't know if I could do that, buddy. I wanted to chat about one more song with you. You didn't write this one, but it was the second single on the Buddy Jewell debut through Columbia, Sweet Southern Comfort, a song that was written by Rodney Clawson and Brad Chrysler. Tell us how this ended up with your voice on it.
That was a Nashville Star thing. I had already sang Help Pour Out the Rain on the show. I think it was like the 4th or 5th episode, something like that. And so by that time, I think we were down to 5 finalists. Myself, Miranda Lambert, John Arthur Martinez, a gal, Brandy Gibson, and then my friend Brandon Silvera, the guy with the peacock pointy hair. And so I knew they were going to record singles on all 5 of us. We were a few weeks away from the end of the show, and they wanted to have something in the can ready to go out immediately the following week to get the single out. Because of what the experience I have with the Help Pour Out the Rain when I sang it on the show, I knew that was going to be my song. The show and Sony felt like some of the other artists didn't have, contestants didn't have an original song that was strong enough to I guess meet the criteria for them wanting to single it. So they had people come, A&R people from Sony came and they were playing songs for other artists. And I heard them playing Sweet Southern Comfort for Brandon Silvera. I was sitting in the room next to where they were playing stuff for him. The guy who sang the demo on that was a guy named Clay Davidson, who has an incredible voice. Yeah, a fellow demo singer, and I always loved hearing him sing. And so I perked up when I heard his voice. And then I started listening to the song, and I thought, wow, that's a great song. And I determined right then and there, hey, if I'm blessed, lucky enough to win this show, I'm going to record that song. And that's how I wound up with it.
Man, I would not have expected to hear Clay Davidson's name on today's show. Man, was he a great singer.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. So I've got a bunch of fun segments that we're going to do with you. This is called By the Numbers, and hopefully you'll catch on as we do this. I think you'll have fun. This is always a lot of fun. It's called By the Numbers with Buddy Jewell. The first segment is called Rapid Fire. I'm going to ask you 7 quick questions. You have to answer as fast as you can, all right, buddy?
Okay.
All right, what's your current song obsession right now from another artist?
Oh, gosh. I don't have one.
All right,
I
next
don't
one.
listen to the radio hardly at all.
What is something people may not know about Buddy Jewell?
I am a licensed real estate agent for the state of Tennessee.
All right. What is one thing that is not fun about the music business?
Not fun. The business side of the music business.
In all of history, can you name a place or a room you would have liked to have been a fly on the wall for?
Oh man, The Last Supper.
What is your personal best accomplishment?
Staying married to my wife for 37 years.
That might be her best accomplishment as well. I
No,
imagine.
man, she deserves a statue in the middle of town, like a trophy. Trust me. Let's
What's-
name roads after her.
Yeah,
You name it.
name something on your bucket list, buddy.
Ooh, I want to do the Alaskan cruise.
I love that. And last one on rapid fire. What's the biggest lesson you've learned directly from music?
Oh, that's tough. I would say the biggest lesson I learned from music is how it can inspire not only me but other people as well. It really speaks to me, and it's amazing to see music do that.
All right, by the numbers with Buddy Jewell for the number 6 is called What the Heck. These are some silly questions I'm just going to give you, and we randomly chose these before the show. I did not choose these, buddy, so don't blame me.
Okay.
All right, number 1, what is your best curse word alternative?
Some buck or mother fudger. Is
I
another
love
one.
it. All right, have you ever dropped your phone on your face while using it in bed?
Yes.
All right, which song do you wish you had written?
Oh my gosh. Sunday morning coming down.
Do you believe in Bigfoot?
No.
All right, how much deeper do you think the ocean would be if it didn't have sponges in it?
Well, I several miles more, I imagine.
All right, and last one, which superpower do you wish you had?
Ooh. I don't know if I want to read minds. I'd like to fly.
All right, by the numbers for the number 5 is called Top 5. Buddy, what are your favorite top 5 songs that you have written?
That I have written. Help Her Out the Range, Lacey's song. It's maybe the most money. Abilene on Her Mind, because they should have released this single and they didn't. When I'm Good and Gone is another one I wrote about in the last conversation I had with my dad. The song I told you about earlier, A Lot Like Me. And then really kind of one of my current favorites is the song that's going to be on the record called Last Day in Dublin.
I love that 2 of the songs are coming out, right? They're not out yet, so
Yeah.
you guys be looking for that. All right, by the numbers for the number 4 is called Mount Rushmore. Who is on Buddy Jewell's Mount Rushmore of most influential artists to you personally?
Randy Owen, Marty Robbins, Johnny Cash. Oh, I need more heads.
4.
Waylon and
No,
Johnny
no,
Horton. I
that's
don't know.
4. You don't get 5. All right, by the numbers for the number 3 is called Impactful. This is my favorite segment of every single week. Name 3 people that impacted your life in some way, and then tell us the biggest thing you learned from each of those folks.
Okay. A guy named John Dresbach was our music director at the church that I grew up in Osceola. When I was really needed someone that like that in my teenage years. Oh my gosh, my wife and wow, that is so hard, so hard. Probably my dad.
All right, so what's the biggest thing you learned from your wife, and then the biggest thing from your dad as well?
Well, my wife is she's just such an incredible person. I put her through a lot, and she's stuck with me. So her faith and her tenacity, ironically, her name is Tanae, has just been amazing. So she's taught me to never give up, and that God's never fails. He's always faithful. From my dad, a really strong work ethic, and from John Dresbach, just the love for music in general.
Love it. By the numbers with Buddy Jewell for the number 2 is called Gratitude. What are the 2 things you are most grateful for?
That Jesus Christ chose to go to the cross for me.
And one more?
And then the other thing I'm most grateful for is my family.
By the numbers for number one is called One Artist, Buddy. Who is one artist you wish the whole world knew about other than yourself?
My son, Buddy the Third.
Okay, cool. So he's in the music business now too?
Yeah, he actually plays drums for me, but he's got his own thing going. He's got this beautiful voice. It's kind of John Mayer, Adam Levine type thing. And he's a great writer.
Wow.
Too. Him and his friend Brad. Yeah.
Very cool.
Their group is called Grand Division, and they have stuff on all the
Oh
music
man,
platforms.
I'm checking that out as soon as I get off. Thank you, buddy. All right,
Yeah.
last segment, which could be the hardest for you to answer. The segment is called "Who Do You Think You Are?" So, who is Buddy Jewell?
He is like I told you earlier, one of the most blessed individuals you're ever going to have on this show. I've been so blessed and forgiven for so many things, and God's given me so many second chances. I'm just, I won't call it luck. I'm the most blessed person you probably ever talked to.
You just gave me the title to the episode. I appreciate it. Sometimes it comes real early, but it just came to me. We're going to call this Buddy Jewell Blessings in Abundance.
Nice.
I think that's encapsulates what we've chatted about here today. Guys, follow along with Buddy, man. It's buddyjewell.com. That's with 2 L's at the end, so JEWELL.com. The social medias for you to follow along is Buddy Jewell on Facebook. Instagram is The Buddy Jewell, and X is Buddy Jewell. YouTube is Buddy Jewell, so go to your favorite platform, follow along. Buddy is still touring very, very, very strongly, so you guys check out a show. He's coming to loads of different states, so you can get all of that information there on the website as well. Do we have an ETA on the new music, Buddy?
I'm hoping by late summer. And by the way, every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, I do a Facebook Live called Tuesday's Tune.
Which is funny because I have a live show on Tuesdays that I call Tuesday or Tuesday. So we also have that in common. Crazy.
We got to hook up somewhere and have a beer or coffee.
Absolutely, dude. I'll take you to dinner anytime, man. Any freaking time. I'll keep an eye on when you come to Texas, and maybe we'll hook that up. But, Buddy, thank you so much for doing this for us, man. I hope you had more fun than mowing your lawn, at least.
I really did, man. It's so great getting to meet you, and thank you for being a blessing to me, bro.
Hey, this is Jeff Bates, and thanks for tuning in to the Boston Chris Show.